On the cold morning of November 13th, 1984, the quiet New Hampshire town of Exeter woke up to a day that felt just like any other, bright, crisp, and ordinary. Parents were heading to work, school buses were rumbling across winding streets, and children were hurrying along their familiar routes. No one could have imagined that, within just a few hours, the town's sense of safety would be shattered forever. That morning, 13-year-old Tammy Lynn Belanger slipped into her red sweater, grabbed her school books, and stepped out the front door of her home on River Street. It was a walk she had taken hundreds of times, a simple 10-minute route she knew by heart. But this time, Tammy never made it to school. She vanished somewhere along that short stretch of pavement, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted her family, her neighbors, and investigators for nearly 4 decades. Before she became the subject of news reports and search grids, Tammy was simply a child full of softness and quiet curiosity. Born on February 24, 1971, she lived with her parents, Nelson and Elaine Belanger, who doted on their only child. Tammy was gentle by nature, small for her age, and known around town for her warm smile and thoughtful personality. Teachers described her as polite and inquisitive, the kind of student who never interrupted but always listened with genuine interest. One teacher would later recall, she had this way of leaning forward like she was absorbing everything. A neighbor remembered, there was nothing loud about her, she was just good. You could sense it. Tammy loved stickers, mysteries, and reading quietly in her room. She helped her parents without being asked, and she rarely complained. She was the kind of child people felt protective of, even if they didn't know her well. On the morning she disappeared, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Tammy ate a small breakfast, gave a quick goodbye to her parents, and stepped outside around 8 a.m. The air was crisp, the leaves were vibrant with the final colors of fall, and the Squamscott River flowed steadily beside her usual route. She walked down River Street, crossed the small bridge, and continued toward school. A neighbor later confirmed seeing her at around 8:10 a.m., walking alone, holding her books. That was the last confirmed sighting of Tammy. When she didn't show up to class, teachers assumed she might be running late or feeling unwell. But when the school contacted the Belanger home after 9 a.m. and Elaine answered the phone, the panic began. Tammy had left on time. She should have been in her seat. And in that moment, Elaine's life split into a before and after. At 9:45 a.m., the Exeter Police Department received the call no parent ever wants to make. Officers responded immediately. By late morning, the school, the police, and dozens of residents were combing the town, retracing Tammy's route, calling her name, and checking every yard and alleyway. Nothing had been disturbed. No books were dropped on the sidewalk. No torn clothing was found. No witness reported hearing a scream or seeing a struggle. It was as if Tammy had walked into thin air. Exeter mobilized fast. This was not a town where children disappeared. Search parties expanded into surrounding areas. Police dogs were brought in, and helicopters hovered overhead, scanning the riverbanks and woods. Officers knocked on doors, questioned drivers, and double-checked every inch of Tammy's usual path. But the horrifying truth remained. There was no trace of her. As investigators collected witness accounts, a troubling pattern emerged. Several people reported seeing a blue station wagon moving slowly through the area that morning. One person saw it stop briefly near River Street. Another saw it close to School Street. At the time, the descriptions were vague. No plate number, no precise features of the driver, but the reports were consistent enough to raise concern. And then came the detail that made detectives' blood run cold. A known sex offender lived less than half a mile from Tammy's walking route. His name was Richard Dickie Moreau, and he owned a blue station wagon. Moreau had a deeply unsettling reputation in Exeter. Middle-aged, quiet, and reclusive, he was known to make inappropriate comments and stare at girls passing his house. He had a criminal record involving exposure to minors, and many parents told their children to stay away from him. One neighbor later said, "He always gave me a bad feeling. If anyone could do something like this, It was him. Another added, he used to watch the kids walk by, not in a normal way. The girls would cross the street to avoid him. When detectives knocked on his door, Moreau claimed he had been home all morning, but his explanation was inconsistent. He stumbled over simple details. His alibi was vague, and he seemed unusually nervous. Police searched his home and car. In his house, they found children's clothing that did not belong to any child connected to him. They found maps of the area, including one with markings near the river. But none of it directly connected him to Tammy. Suspicion was high, but suspicion alone wasn't enough. Months passed, and the investigation kept circling back to Moreau. But without eyewitness confirmation or physical evidence, the case reached a painful standstill. Then a new witness came forward. A woman reported seeing a blue station wagon stop near School Street at around 8:15 a.m. She noticed a man, middle-aged, scruffy, standing outside the vehicle, apparently talking to a young girl. At the time, she thought she was witnessing a normal parent-child interaction. But after the news broke, her memory took on a horrifying new meaning. She told police, "It looked like her. The hair, the height. I didn't think anything of it that day. Now I can't stop thinking about it." This sighting aligned disturbingly well with Tammy's route and the timing of her disappearance. It also aligned with Moreau's car. Investigators began piecing together a likely scenario. Tammy may have been approached, possibly gently, possibly by someone pretending to need help, or offering a ride near the final stretch of her walk. She might not have realized the danger until it was too late. A fast grab, a forced push into a car, and within seconds, she could have been out of sight from everyone. It was unthinkable, but it was possible, especially if the person responsible had watched her route carefully, especially if he had done this before. Over the years, additional disturbing statements allegedly came from Moreau. Acquaintances later claimed he made chilling remarks, including, "They'll never find that girl," and "The river takes everything." Investigators could never officially use these comments. They were unverified, informal, and not strong enough to stand in a courtroom, but they reinforced detectives' long-held belief. Moreau likely abducted Tammy and disposed of her in the Squamscott River. The river is tidal, deep in some areas, and constantly moving. Divers searched, boats scanned, and officers explored multiple sections, but nothing surfaced. And without a body, prosecutors had no case to charge. For the Belanger family, the years that followed were filled with silent agony. Elaine and Nelson refused to let Tammy fade from memory. They spoke with every detective assigned to the case. They handed out flyers. They cooperated with every update, every rumor, every new review of the files. Elaine once said, "The hardest part is waking up every day and not knowing. You can survive anything if you know, but the not knowing, it changes you." The community held vigils. Classmates grew up, had children of their own, and still spoke of the girl who never made it to school that morning. One former classmate recalled, "We were kids. We didn't understand the world yet. And then, suddenly, we learned something awful, that bad things can happen even in safe places." Detectives never closed the case. Over the decades, new units revisited the evidence. Every time, the focus returned to Moreau. He was the only suspect who matched the behavioral profile, the sightings, and the timeline. He was the only one with the history and the proximity to Tammy's route. But he continued to deny everything. He never confessed. He never cracked. He died in 2010, taking answers with him. But investigators remain convinced he was responsible. One retired officer said, privately, "We're as sure as you can be without a confession. He did it. We just couldn't prove it." Though unproven in court, the most widely accepted theory is that Tammy was followed by a predator, someone familiar with her habits, the area, and the timing of the school day. He likely approached her near School Street. She may have paused, unsure, maybe answering a question or trying to be polite. And in that small moment, he acted, quick, quiet, calculated. Within seconds, she was gone, and the town of Exeter learned a devastating truth. Even in a small community where everyone knows everyone, danger can exist just out of sight. Tammy's disappearance had a lasting impact on the community. Parents became more vigilant. Schools improved their attendance and alert systems. Child safety initiatives expanded across New England. And Tammy's name became part of a broader national movement toward protecting missing and exploited children in the 1980s, a time when child abduction cases were reshaping public awareness across the country. Despite the decades that have passed, Tammy's memory continues to live on. Her family has never stopped hoping for answers, and her community has never forgotten the gentle girl with quiet eyes and a kind heart. Tammy should have grown up. She should have graduated, built a life, maybe had a family of her own, but someone stole that from her. And someone alive or gone still knows exactly what happened on that November morning. If you have any information, no matter how small, contact the Exeter Police Department. Even after 40 years, one detail could finally bring the truth to light. And if this story moved you, I ask you to help keep Tammy's memory alive. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. Share this video to raise awareness for children who go missing every year. And subscribe for more in-depth, empathetic, true crime storytelling that honors victims and seeks justice.